We have Despina running a technology company, deeply engaged in communication and future connectivity. We have Anna running oil and gas shipping company, and the president of WISTA, Cyprus today. We have Vassilios, our ex-deputy shipping minister, and now officer for new technologies in the UMA group. And we have Lefteris from Greece. I will not pronounce his surname because you all will laugh.
Lefteris Koukoulopoulos. I agree with you. Too long even for a Greek name, so stick to Lefteris.
Okay, so you will see now the questions, I think, on the screen. Once we start with this. I will not ask the questions to the panelists in order to save time. They, of course, know the questions. So, Despina.
I start.
Yes, please.
Indeed, there are many issues, not only in the shipping industry, but the world over. In my previous position as chairwoman of the Electricity Authority, I also managed to see the issues that we have with energy from a different point of view, from the electricity point of view. So indeed, there's a lot of things that we need to do in order for the world to be prepared. You mentioned the increase of approximately 2 billion people by 2050, and especially in Africa and Asia. Indeed, that's a lot of people, and one of the issues that we're going to find in front of us is exactly energy systems and how do they advance, and how do we manage all the demand for energy that we're going to have. For sure, with the increase of people, there's probably going to be economic growth as well. There's going to be more need for and more demand for energy. There's going to be demand for data centers. And how do we handle this? I would say technology is a very big proponent of how we manage it. It's something that we see in the shipping sector as well, coming to our sector now. It's something that we've seen as a company being involved in satellite communications and technology, how much satellite usage has increased in the shipping industry, because it's the way that seafarers, shipping companies are able to use all these new applications that they're using. And indeed, we've seen a big increase since COVID, but I think COVID was just the beginning and maybe what the excuse for using more connectivity. While we see the environmental concerns evolving and environmental regulations coming in, shipping companies are trying to find ways to deal with this. Of course, we all know that there are no set regulations are evolving. Still, technologies on alternative fuels, they have a long way to go. We do have issues with alternative fuels. We have issues in terms of storage. We have issues in terms of safety. We have issues in terms of infrastructure. We talk a lot about hydrogen, which could be a very good solution, but what happens with the infrastructure along the way? We all know it's a very low density fuel. Ships that are going to need a lot of port calls to refuel. There are many things that we still need to resolve. So what we are, of course, we have more energy efficient designs. We have lighter materials now. there are many things that we can do, but what we have for now is energy efficiency applications, and actually there is proof and there are some data that show us that even just using energy efficiency applications, we can reduce energy emissions. So that's something we have now, and it's something that we are evolving. Digital technologies are helping for sure. We see that we have usage even now of digital twins, of weather applications, optimization of routing. These are all applications that help us really evolve. And indeed, there's an Inmarsat survey in the container sector between 2021 and 2022. Connectivity increased by more than 200%, and in the bulk sector, almost 150%. And a very part of that percentages, it's because of the use of business digital applications, not only seafarers and the crew using connectivity, but it was actual business applications. We're very fortunate that the shipping industry is embracing this, the new technologies and the new applications. It's something that will help us. As I mentioned, we have a long way to go, but I think what's most important is what we have now, and getting there. What are these digital solutions that we can use now to optimize the situation that we're in?
Yeah. Thank you, Despina. That is very interesting. You mentioned actually that the most available resource to reduce emissions are our current operations. So if we conduct our current operations on board of the vessel and the way how the cargo is being distributed in a better way, we can immediately save emissions by using the new connectivity and the new tools to monitor vessels' performance. And I believe that goes straight to the heart of every ship manager and every ship owner, to be a little bit better in the operation than the competition. That opens to the ship management a new area of marketing, actually. So we could now market ourselves not being the lowest in the fees for ship management services, but the lowest in emissions. Great. Vassilios, you have been in the regulatory, on the regulatory side for all your previous life until recently. So you have seen a lot of things, and what can you tell us about the new fuels and the new regulations?
Well, first of all, allow me to thank the Cyprus Shipping News and my friend Adonis Violais for the opportunity to share views and exchange with other esteemed panelists and friends. Well, I must say, Captain, that I think it's the first time in the history of modern, if not the entire history of shipping, that the success of a transformation or the effectiveness does not rely solely on the strict enforcement and implementation of the legal framework. We have to do much, much more, and I do believe that we will not succeed if we don't change a mindset.
Yeah.
It's a holistic approach and a new mindset to tackle the green transformation. So we all talk about the take-up of alternative fuels, be it biofuels, methanol, ammonia, or hydrogen. Despina mentioned quite a few of the plethora, I must say, challenges: safety, compatibility with existing engines, fuel tank capacity on board. I would like to emphasize the human capital. Human capital is very important when it is called to engage and apply all these fuel technologies. Because we now have to upskill and train our human capital, not only how to manage a new LNG or ammonia or methanol running fuel, running ship, but also we have to train them on the route optimization, on the vessel optimization, and on the effective fuel management. So all these are extremely important in our pathway to decarbonization. Of course, the regulatory framework is there. There is not a single global, I must say, regulatory framework in place. We have the hope now in the forthcoming intersessional working group of MEPC to see, let's say, the pricing mechanism to be put forward, and especially the so-called IMO greenhouse gas strategy mechanism fund, which if it goes through, it will have a positive domino effect in incentivizing the market to produce alternative fuels, and the shipping industry to be able to use, and also the financial institutions that could also use. But before going to that, there is a call to the regulators. I must say that we need to convey, because we have 47 contracting parties submitting this proposal, which is a very strong and positive message to have the industry, the European Union member states, and very important maritime nations joining. But there is a responsibility for us as an EU member state to knock the door of Brussels, of the new European Commission. And if the European Commission wants to send a strong message to the global shipping community, then they should have to say about the sunset clause. What we are facing now in Europe, which is a different regulatory framework with the ETS and the Fuel EU, is one thing, but the way to show that we mean well towards the rest of the world, and also towards the small island developing states and less developed states to engage, we have to show that we mean well. We have to be ready to engage in a global system. And then the question mark is how this fund will function, whether we'll purely support the well-to-wake fuels and not the fossil-based, let's say, fuel to uptake and bridge the cost gap between the fossil fuels and the alternative green fuels. I must say that, 2 years ago, we have organized in the Shipping Deputy Ministry a very important live SWOT analysis on the PwC Experience Center. And if you go back to the conclusions, for strange reasons, they are not available in the website of the ministry, but they are available on my website. You will discover that they are still valid. They are still very relevant on the level of maturity of each fuel. You can check that 90% of the global fleet that is running, and we are grateful to DNV of the very nice outlook that they provide. They run on fossil-based fuel ships, and this will be dropped only 7 to 75% in 2030. Yeah. So what we have to do as a responsible maritime nations and as a responsible industry is not just to celebrate if we manage in the forthcoming MEPC to have a new pricing mechanism, but what do we do till 2027, where it's going to be entering into force? We have to mobilize our people, to train our people, to use wisely the available technologies, and to streamline also the research funds, because we all have, we have the Horizon, we have other global research funds, but I've never seen to prioritize some technologies in line with the level of maturity of each technology. So we have to prioritize things if we want the acceleration of the uptake, but the most important of all is to understand that by enforcing a regulation and complying with the regulation is not enough. It's not like it used to be 20 years ago when we have the safety issue and the accelerating phasing out of the single hull. It was just you comply with the regulation. Here we have to do much more, and definitely the early movers will have the opportunity to gain. It's not just the challenge, is an opportunity. So my call to the regulators is, especially in Europe, is to show in the forthcoming MEPC that they mean well to put the global shipping community to engage on one single measure. And for us, as part of the industry now, is to be more innovative, more collaborative approach. And unfortunately, there is not one technology that fits all shipping segments and all the different kind of ships and trade. That's why we have to engage and understand that by investing on all these technologies, and hopefully with the breaching the cost gap, we will have a meaningful, let's say, progress towards our decarbonization path.
Yeah. Thank you, Vassilios. You mentioned something very powerful. You mentioned that we don't need only a technology shift, but we need a mind shift. And I think this is a message which we as the shipping industry have to carry to our governments and to carry to our lobbyists. It is not like in the medieval times where we have done something bad and then we went to the priest and we paid some coins and we got the paper that we are free of all sins. It didn't work in those days because Martin Luther reacted and the Protestant church was born. We can't do the same thing with our emissions. It's not enough to, in my humble opinion, and you confirmed that in other words, to set up a fund, to set up money, make funds available to free us from the global warming problem. When we don't really also say, how do we apply these funds? And is it at all possible, even if we have endless money, to make things to happen? Maybe we have to tell our politicians, whether you are now from the environmental department or whether you are now from the commercial and the transport sector, you have to work together for the common goal. Don't be driven by an ideology. Be driven by facts. Be driven by what the people really want. And we cannot leave behind, as you mentioned, those nations which are living on the islands which in the next years to come will be visitable by submarines. That's not possible. So I believe the way how our political parties and how we work needs to change. And then we can change. Anna, you run a fantastic company here in Cyprus. You are the commercial director of Intergaz. So you bring all the gas which we have in our kitchens, and you face all these regulations, and you face the bottlenecks. How do you think through collaboration we can improve things? And maybe you share us the secret why Intergaz is so successful.
Thank you, Captain Adami, and thank you, Adoni, for the opportunity to share my thoughts on this important topic among esteemed guests and panelists. There is not a secret formula, but collaboration, I can say, is key and very important. And I mean, recently we have done this on a couple of occasions across our supply chain, with also the recent relocation to Vassilios, where with a collaboration we abandoned the idea of building single terminals for each company, and we joined forces and created one joint storage. So there are a lot of big changes that we would have not imagined in the past. and the idea of keeping your identity, it's not enough anymore to progress and move forward. You need to collaborate with other stakeholders, and for shipping is cross-border collaboration as well. It's not just domestic. So, I mean, for shipping, the transition to zero emissions, I think it's one of the most significant challenges of our time. And it's clear that no single company or technology or policy can achieve this goal. So to begin, I think we can all agree that on one fundamental truth, that the scale and complexity of decarbonizing the maritime sector requires collective action. And while technological innovation, it is essential, it's not enough alone. What we need is a society-wide shift to a circular economy. We need to an active engagement of people and cross-border collaboration involving all the stakeholders. There are challenges like raw material scarcity, the need for new fuel infrastructures, and the untested nature of alternative technologies. They make it clear that the collective action is the path forward. Collaboration enables us to address these difficulties by pooling knowledge, pooling resources, and expertise. And it's not just about adopting new technologies, but it's about building an ecosystem where shipping companies, fuel producers, policymakers, technology developers, they all come together to achieve shared goals. And through this kind of collaboration, the solutions we implement, they are not just effective, but they're also equitable, and they are also sustainable. I mean, there are a lot of factors. The shift, the recent shift we see in the U.S. energy and trade policies, they add uncertainties to global markets, and also actions such as the withdrawal of U.S. from the Paris climate agreement. They have the potential to influence international regulatory frameworks. So for shipping companies operating globally, this could mean navigating into fragmented regulatory environments. And this complicates the compliance with emissions and environmental standards. So while collaboration among the stakeholders is essential, it's not sufficient, just that, to achieve the global carbon neutrality. So to reverse the climate change, we must embrace, as you've done very well in your introduction, a societal change and a shift toward the circular economy. And this requires rethinking how we design, how we produce, and how we consume, and focusing on minimizing waste and extending the life cycle of resources and maximizing efficiencies. And at the same time, we must prioritize on the main stakeholder here, which are the people. We need public engagement. It's very important. I mean, everyone from industry leaders to individual consumers, we must all understand the importance of sustainability. And we can do this by fostering education, enhance the transparency, and maximize inclusivity, so that we can build on the support and trust we need in order to drive this transformation that is needed.
Yeah, that was very interesting. Thank you so much, Anna. You mentioned that we need to collaborate with our neighbors and with our competitors in order to bring certain segments together to be more efficient for the region. And I think Vassilios is a great example. No? We had before the things scattered in Limassol, in Larnaca, and now we bring things together, and this is a great way to improve, and I think also to make your own region more stronger against external competition. Particularly when we talk about seaports and sea operations, the ships usually are never the bottleneck. There are always ships available, and it's fairly quick to build a ship or to build a lot of ships. The bottleneck are the ports. And to change the infrastructure of the ports is costing so much money that most of the governments are not able to do that. So they have to go to the private sector, and the private sector then basically steps in, and there is where the collaboration now can happen. Actually, through privatization of certain governmental mainstreams, we can enable better things. And you mentioned that we have to take the people on board and do the mindset already at a very early stage. Do you agree, Anna, that we should demand from our ministries of education to rethink their syllabi in the elementary school and at high school? Should we have more modern or different topics to teach our future children?
Certainly, even from nursery schools, I would say. I mean, you start early on. We even funded an initiative last year that went on educating on the marine environment to nursery schools, because it starts from that age, building culture. It will take time, but we have to. And it was also nice. It was not just educating the children, but also giving the tools to the educators and the teachers, because they have to start to change the mindset and also start implementing what they were giving and the information. Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. Lefteris, now being the expert or one of the experts within DNV for the new fuels, for the alternative technology, can you take us a little bit now to the hard facts of these fuels and where do we stand today and what you like us to do to accelerate?
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss this topic. Of course, we are doing a lot of studies as DNV. We are investigating in the current projects, future projects around fuels, around the planet, and we try to gather insights in order to help the decision of ship managers and ship owners. Of course, these people are not alone, and I like to come back to the one thing that was mentioned about the mindset of people that needs to change. And you suggest to ship managers to improve practice, become more green in order to improve their business profile. And this is the correct way, because we also see that regulations are not so penalizing. Now, regulations are not the drive. The market is the drive. Everyone is grasping this business opportunity in order to create more business for their own, of course, through collaboration. So the change of mindset is important, and also not only for the ship manager's side, but also from charter side. You mentioned ports, of course, that they are not ready to accommodate these needs, but also the way we transfer goods and the way we formulate charter parties need to change in order to take into account this thing that it is a word that we are hearing a lot over the last years, just-in-time arrival, but it is so simple in mind to think, but so difficult to achieve this in practice. And you save so much money. And before coming to fuels, I would like, because I'm still getting calls from friends and shipping companies asking if it is interrelated, the hull cleaning, with energy efficiency. Still. So there is room for improvement, for small items, everyday habits that can improve things. Of course, fuels will come. One fact that we see that it is quite optimistic is currently that the 50% of the order book is alternative fueled vessels. Of course, someone hit us because we also say LNG is an alternative fuel, but it is not. It is a fuel with reduced carbon, emitting less in the atmosphere. This 50% includes LNG carriers, and if we want to talk about simple cargo vessels, around 42–43%, which is quite optimistic yet. Of course, some vessels, large vessels especially, from large shipping companies, container ships, some tankers, some bulkers that can burn LNG, not ready, they can burn. Once they bunker LNG, this will happen. And there is a tendency for this to increase. We see that LNG is promising. It can keep you compliant with FuelEU and the upcoming for IMO, also the GFI, until 2040 for a vessel. You can also pull other vessels until that time. And another interesting thing that we see popping up is that the same infrastructure that will have been developed to transfer LNG on board the vessels can later be used for bio-LNG. That can come from biogas, it can come from waste. There are projects picking up around bio-LNG, increasing your life expectancy with the regulation even further after 2040. So, yes, we see LNG. Of course, a large part of the order book is still conventional fuel vessels, relying on biofuel. We see many companies, even smaller ones, going and finding biofuel to bunker, and not only in Rotterdam and Singapore, but other places too. Of course, with the correct certification, because as it was mentioned by the minister at the start, we need a level playing field, not to take something that it is green under the table and hit your competitor, but be equal for everyone. Now, there is this methanol and ammonia game that is going over the last year. One is going up, it dies again, the other one is picking up, depending on what is hitting trade winds, which is the companies and the vessels that are ordering and what they are ordering. We see a shift towards ammonia because people say that, okay, if we want to create something new, let's create something that has no carbon in it and be done with it, not go pass from methanol and change then again to something else. And this is something, again, that is coming from collaborations, because it is very interesting to see that the first ammonia vessels in the order book going to be delivered in 2026 are 11 bulk carriers. Who would imagine that bulk carriers are going to be the first vessels to burn ammonia? But how is that? It's through collaborations and through push from the cargo owner side, not regulations, not cargo owners side, that they invest in that technology to have some vessels to cover specific trade and specific path, because the same ones are going to find this ammonia. They are going to have this green ammonia to bring on their vessels. And an interesting fact is that last week we had the first bunkering of ammonia with STS. It was an interesting project. I think it was somewhere outside China that it took place, open seas. It is a collaboration, I think it's called GCMD or something like that. It's a collaboration around decarbonization with many partners. Also, DNV is participating in that effort. And through small initiatives like that, we can have some lessons, because we should not forget the safety and that people are on board and are going to use these complex machines. And this, of course, will need time. Closing, of course, there are other technologies. There is hydrogen, but it is difficult, not able to see this for the time being for cargo vessels. Mainly, if we want to talk about the commercial side, tanks are huge. It's very difficult to use it. Okay, we can talk along about hydrogen, but two things to not forget. Wind assist propulsion is here. We have 100 vessels now with a technology like that, 50 sailing, 50 in the order book. And we have seen examples of a vessel relying only on wind assist propulsion, turning off their engines. We have documents that they can reach a 5 to 6 knots speed alone, only with that technology. And lastly, electrification. An interesting figure that I saw a few weeks ago is that 7% of the energy consumption of ships is in port. So if we can do this, at least at port, because for ocean-going vessels it makes no sense to use to carry half a vessel battery in order to move the vessel, electricity can help, because its direct use is much more efficient than spending energy ashore to create the green fuel, then burn the green fuel to a two-stroke engine that you lose half of the energy from the very start. And a last one that, okay, it is not now to talk of it, but it is in everyone's back of our mind that nuclear will come to solve all the problems that you mentioned at the start, but not to sit back and relax and say, okay, we are not doing nothing now, and let's wait for nuclear after who knows when, 30 years. And ideally not on the vessels, but ashore to create fuels, use them as batteries on vessels, and then use them on board the ships. That is like an outlook of everything we see now in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Can I ask something on
Yeah,
this?
of course, Despina.
I've recently been on a nuclear-powered submarine, so I was wondering, commercially, when do we think on commercial ships?
Commercial ships, there are initiatives. There is this core power, and there are also other collaborations that they study these small, safe reactors on the vessels. There is the societal side that imagine a ship with a nuclear reactor arriving in a port, how this is going to people who react ashore at the first example. It is not so difficult as you say, it is a proven technology. We see this in submarines, in some naval ships, and these reactors are the old ones, I suppose. They are not the new reactors that are much safer, and they cannot create this collapse effect. Commercially, we cannot, of course, talk with numbers, but it will certainly take like 15, 20, 25 years.
Of course, it's the cost, right?
For sure. It is the cost, it is the change of the market, because the one that is going to put a reactor on the vessel, it is not like now the yard is delivering the vessel and it's giving it, they have nothing to do with it again. Now, if a yard delivers a vessel with a reactor, it is going to be liable for this reactor and the fuel throughout the lifetime of the vessel. So the market will change. I mean, we may see vessels in a leasing profile that you are going to lease the vessel to carry this cargo. It's very, very different how it's going to formulate. This is what we see at least.
Yeah. I mean, from the technology, Despina, it is doable.
Yeah.
We did have, under the German flag, the nuclear cargo vessel Otto Hahn. She was trading very successfully until the port authorities gave so much problems globally that it was almost impossible to enter with the cargo into the ports, regulatory side. The Americans had the Savannah, similar story. We have nuclear icebreakers in Russia and in Finland and in Canada. So it's doable. I want to mention a little bit on why ammonia is coming up. The funny thing is that ammonia is being used by the coal power plants. And it is actually mixed together with the coal in order to be more efficient. And the movement to use ammonia came from the Japanese shipyards, who were pushed by the Japanese government to improve their fuel efficiency at their coal-powered plants. i.e., ammonia needs to be transported or imported into Japan. How to do that? Of course, you need tanker vessels to bring the ammonia, to do the mixing at the power plant. And then the natural development was, well, if we already bring the ammonia and we have the big bulk carriers bringing the coal, let the big bulk carrier also run on the carbon neutral ammonia fuel. And now we say ammonia is the savior, but we use it in order to burn coal in the power plants. Just a side note. Thank you very much. We have 5 minutes for some burning questions from the audience. But Dieter, I wanted to put you on the spot actually, and I'm happy that you lifted your arm now. Mr. Rodenburg is the CEO of a new ship management entity, and Intermaritime. Dieter, we want to hear from you how you think you can market your company differently than what you were used to do when you were running the Hartmann family's business.
Are you intending to give your ships into management with us? I can give you a full pitch later. I will come back to this, but I just wanted to share a couple of thoughts before I forget them. The first one is, the heading or the title is Bridging the Energy Gap, and I think, Eugen, the slides you showed in the beginning were very important and very interesting. The one where the green energy gap was shown is scary, but it's also, I think it's it shows that whatever we do in shipping is not going to save the world. So I mean, shipping is 3% of the global CO2 emissions, and there's a lot more that needs to be done. That was number one. Number two, I missed hearing anything about carbon capture systems. I think this is certainly not going to save the world, but I think in the interim, it's a solution that can help not only shipping, but particularly and more importantly land-based emissions, which power plants, cement plants, and so on. I think that's an important part of the puzzle. I thought the most interesting part was from Anna actually, because the way she nearly emotionally talked about the mind change the mind shift that we need to see, and I think and the circular economy and these things. I think this is really what is the only thing that can save us. We cannot continue the way we did in the past, and I think assuming that we will continue like this is wrong, because we need to change. And I think the way, probably the only way to get us to do it is not regulation so much, is if you have to pay the actual cost of the environmental impact of anything that you consume, produce, or do, then things become so expensive you will not buy a jeans anymore, or you may buy one per year that costs $150 or $200 or whatever it will be the price, but you're not going to buy 5 or 10 or 15. So this fast fashion thing will kill itself like this. And I think that's the key to most things that we do. If you would have to pay for the actual cost of producing the electricity, producing the water again, or recovering the water, then things would become expensive, so expensive that it wouldn't make sense to do it over and over again. And the final thing actually is on the efficiency of shipping. I think there's so much we can do on changing or making technological improvements, new fuels and so on. But I think where a good part of the inefficiency lies is in, let me call it, the commercial side of things. So we still trade ships 50% ballast. Tankers do. We have bulk carriers that ballast a lot as well, and we have seen that when we tried to convince charterers that when we had a half-laden ship to allow us to bring another charterer with another half cargo or parcel, they would reject it. They would say, no, I want your ship only for my cargo because I want to make sure that it's the fastest way. And so I think there's, on the commercial side, the way we trade ships, there's a lot of opportunities to make it more efficient. And I think big data is one thing Let me just put out there Uber as a headline. I think there's a lot of efficiency to be had, of course, at the cost of, well, we will need less ships. We will probably need less ship owners as well. Coming back to that, I think, as ship managers, first of all, talking about collaboration, we know now a thing or two about collaborating, the two of us who have merged. But I think as ship managers, there are a lot of opportunities to assist our clients, and most of us will be able to do the same. I think where we are particularly good is adding value on the commercial side. And what I was just talking about was creating opportunities on the commercial side. I think that's something we want to be able to assist our clients as well. But I'm sure we can help you with other things as well. So let's talk after the meeting.
Yeah, bravo. Thank you, Dieter.
Actually, I just wanted to give a number. Zestas says that about 40% of shipping's emissions can be removed just from energy efficiency measures. Measures, yeah. That's correct.
So
that's very important. Yes, measures.
Yes.
All-encompassing measures. Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know we
do a closing remarks with this one, and then we can move for a break.
Thank you for the pushing, for the polite pushing. I just wanted to respond to Dieter why we didn't talk about carbon capture storage. In our opinion, carbon capture storage is an add-on equipment, which technology at the moment requires much more energy, what you have to put in comparison to the CO2 what you recover. The German technology and government withdraw from carbon capture storage projects in the 1990s. Shell operate a plant in Australia, which is running from the day until it was concepted only up to 50% of the design capabilities. And the other plants what we have in Iceland as an example, where we have a lot of energy available, thermal energy, it is possible, but what we recover is so little that with the current technology is not really scalable. So from the technical point of view, yes, it is possible, but to implement it into ships where you have limited amount of space, we need a different technology to do it. So it's very, very complicated, and we should focus rather on the 50%, the low-hanging fruit, which is our daily operation. Andonis, he will punish me. Andonis will punish me.
Any question?
I do admire you explaining the CCS that well, but I was surprised missing out the abatement technology in general. I hope so, because we are trying to minimize the gap, and we are not doing it because we don't have the means. The alternative fuels, and I don't talk about transitional fuels, are not here.
Yeah.
They're not going to be here in the 30s, they're not going to be here in the 50s. I hope so I'm wrong. So we need to do something which will continue burn the fossil fuel. We will squeeze out as much energy as possible, as we all talk about efficiency, which is not enough, but we need to find a way not to emit the carbon. Because our problem now is not that we're burning the fuel, is that we emit the carbon. I do also believe that beyond the carbon dioxide, there are other greenhouse gases that they contribute to the increase of the temperature to 1.5, but we don't want them for political reasons to name them and regulate them. But in essence, if we, in this period, if we want to bridge the gap, which I keep saying, minimize the gap, is the only solution we have is to put the carbon somewhere. And the technology exists. If we capture it, the one way or the other, and I agree with you, CCS as it stands today on land might not be transferable on board ships. If we do that, we have technology to use the carbon. Carbon slabs, we can build houses with that. We can do asphalt. We can do a million things that we couldn't do 20 years ago. So I hope so the next panel will touch on that one, because the abatement technology is the only way out between 30 and 50. That's my comment.
Yeah, thank you. You almost summarized our panel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher.
So we can go for a coffee break.
Yeah, we can go for a coffee. I would like to thank you guys for being so outspoken and spot on and well prepared for this debate. Collaboration, changing of mindset, working together will help us immediately to do something, because what Dieter said is so right. We cannot just continue business as usual. So thank you guys so much.